Thank you. First of all, I think all but one of you, I may be mistaken, but all but one of you were here last week, hey? Is that, uh,
I
is
think
there anyone?
everybody
I was.
was. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, when we went through last week, we were talking about um, action plans in 2018 versus 2019, and how this is the season in which we begin to start to think about what we're going to take on in the way of goals and what we're going to do differently to allow us to achieve our goals. And as everyone knows, we left the meeting, we left our time together with the commitment that we were going to go home and think about 3 action steps that we were going to embrace personally, each one of us, that would make us focus on the things that were going to move us towards the goals that we have a desire to reach. So, while often Brett and I talk at these events, these webinars, we're going to turn the tables around a little bit tonight and allow all of you to participate with the hopes that we look at this as a learning experience and as an encouraging experience. You know, as we grow our businesses and grow our BizDev Pro practices, it's a journey. It's not that one person's better than another or one person's not capable. Let's learn from each other now and get into the whole framework of what Brett often calls accurate thought leading to accurate activities. Here I want to say accurate actions, and talk about these things. So who would like to jump into the deep end and just tell us 1 or 2 or 3 of your ideas about different actions that you want to see start up and kick off in the year ahead? Do we have a volunteer?
This is Michelle. I'll jump in.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes, I'm very much needing to be consistent. And I'm trying to implement that actually before 2019, but that really needs to be something that that changes, especially for 2019, and that's consistency. So I think consistency, clarity about, what my business looks like, where it's headed. And I think the more clear I am, the better I'm going to be able to communicate. So consistency, clarity, and communication are the 3 areas that I feel I need to work on more. And those are my 3 big areas for me.
Well, fantastic. Consistency, clarity, and communications. Good alliteration too, by the way. So if you were to improve in all of those areas, what would it look like? What would that look like to you?
Well, I would definitely have my calendar always filled, on a consistent basis. I had some great momentum, and then life gets in the way. So it's just important for me to be able to stay consistent no matter what. Just stay committed to, the accurate habits and activity every single day. I think also if I'm communicating and I have it very clear in order to be able to communicate well
Sure.
what my business is and what I'm looking to do for others, I think what that will look like is not just business relationships, which is for me that's the biggest thing that comes out of this is how I'm able to give to others. But in the business sense is also just having very loyal clients. I think that would be amazing to be able to just have a business that is built with people that are thriving, are part of my thriving tribe. I think building a thriving tribe for me would be like such an amazing accomplishment. So that's what I foresee coming out of my, my three areas.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I've got two last questions that they're very closely related to what you just said, but I want to draw a bead on it. If you were to accomplish these improvement in these three areas, what would that result in, and how would that make you feel?
I would feel very fulfilled, actually. That would bring like a huge fulfillment, because for me, that's just been one of my hardest, things to do, is just to stay focused and stay consistent.
Sure.
And so those have been, I think those have been my greatest obstacles that I've done a lot of sabotage with is, it has nothing to do with anything external. It's more me. And so, I think the fulfillment would be priceless. I think also the financial stability that would bring would also be, very, very great. That would just really have a huge impact on us as a family. And so yeah.
Oh, you've taken a huge, congratulations, Michelle. You've taken a huge first step by defining these three and declaring them. And there's a difference between defining and declaring. Defining is writing stuff down, and I'm a list builder. If I could turn my big iMac around and show you all the lists in my office that I'm sitting around, you'd say, gee, I must be pretty well organized. But declaring that I'm going to pick up, let's say, this priority, consistency, clarity, and communication, declaring that as where I'm going to focus is a lot different than just simply, creating a list of stuff that I got to get better in. And I'll say two more things. One is, in going through this with you, I hope others are drawing lessons from themselves, not just eavesdropping, because, it's okay to sit in on this and hear this from you. But, the process that you're going through and the trade-offs and the weighing of what it's going to cost you to achieve what you want to achieve. I don't mean money-wise. I'm talking about something's going to give in order for you to become more consistent. Something's going to give in order for you to become a better communicator with more clarity. And as you count those costs, you've got the costs of moving towards those, or you've got the expense of not moving towards those. It's a continuum. And so as everyone hears this, I want you to understand that without making the declaration, defining and declaring and committing, you're going to be increasing the chances of being stuck in the same place where you are now. So good job. Good job. So what I would urge you to do, just so that I can ride this fully around the circle, is now to break these things down and write 2 or 3 things around each one of them that illuminate what clarity might look like, what better clarity might look like, what more consistency would look like. And I always believe you attach a reward with the goal. That's why I've asked you about what would success look like and how would you feel. Because when you reinforce on a daily basis the success and the feelings, now you're building the emotional bond to the price you're paying to get to these goals. Make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for being in the leadoff position there. So who else wants to jump in and put some goals out or action steps out and talk about theirs from last week? Anybody?
Yeah, Tom, this is Andrew. Most definitely, I would say organization of my database.
Somebody's got a meeting going on, or they're going to step up a little closer to the mic.
Can you hear me better?
a little better. But speak up if you would, please, so we can all benefit.
So for me, Tom, it would be having more organization in my current database and that systematic nurture, and then adding people to that database to have an ever growing and expanding network beyond just the tribe, but the network outside of the tribe. And then have more quality relationships in my inner circle that are business related. And then the third activity would be building momentum. And I know that comes through consistency, but the goal wouldn't just be to be consistent for me, because I've been consistent, but I haven't built momentum. And that's really the game changer in all businesses.
Yep. Very, very good. Now, I don't see who's speaking here. Who was that?
Andrew Hall.
Andrew, congratulations. That was great. So let me see if I got them all. Organize the database, systematic interactions with the database, and then growing the connections that you have, both tribe and beyond, so as to create momentum. Does that pretty well circle up those comments?
Yes, and the relationships part for those in the inner circle and those in the relationship circle.
Perfect. Very important. I can tell you, I work with thousands of professionals all around the world, and this is probably the one area where they have the greatest shortcoming. And rather than tell you why it's so common, I think it's human nature to not become systematic in I'm going to use your word over and over again, systematic in organizing your contacts into a database, and systematic in your outreach, and systematic in focusing on relationship first. It's human nature, and I do believe the amount of noise in our lives conflicts with getting better. But I want to give you a story. I was on the phone yesterday with a consultant, and we were talking about his progress towards his goals. And I've been working with him for a few months now, just a short time, maybe almost 3 months. And one of his goals was to become more systematic in building relationships with people who could introduce him to more prospects. And as we're talking, you get to the end, and his command to me was, Tom, I want you to tell me, Tom, I want you to ask me each and every week, what are my numbers? How many people did I reach out to? How many people did I make contact with? How many people did I add to my my database who are important to me? And I added along the way, how many people did you weed out of your database because they were not responsive? And as we talked about where he is, he gave me a little gem back. He said, here I am at the end of a 90-day cycle, and I'm about to have my biggest invoicing month ever. I've got 11 people in my sales pipeline. This is a consultant who sells I can't tell you much more without disclosing things I shouldn't. I've got 11 people in my sales funnel. I've got clients that I never had before because of my focus. And I'm going to have the largest invoicing month ever in the month of December. I'm on track to invoice $35,000 in billings to my clients this month. And with a little giggle, he said, and I think that's going to elevate up to over 40,000 in January. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that'd be one hell of an accomplishment, pardon my language, for me to hit that in a consulting environment. And I suspect it's a pretty good number at half that level for everybody on this call with me. So what I want to emphasize, Andrew, because you brought it up, this is something important to everyone. You can't build an effective tribe without an organized approach to the who. Mm-hmm. You cannot do it. You've got another list in your hand that looks like something that's been scratched on my desk. You can't build an effective tribe and a business that would evolve for you and for the people you're trying to help unless you approach building your relationships in a systematic way. You can't do it. There's a point in time when you may do a little bit of it, but there's going to be a point in time when your disorganization is going to distract you or prevent you from becoming as effective as you could be with the people who you should be. And then I'm totally sold on your R word, Andrew. The reason why people will want to be in your tribe and want to be in your circles is because of your advancing relationship first. That's one thing we have the least of in this digitized culture of today is meaningful interpersonal relationships. And when you come in and invest in the other person, invest in the relationship, invest in the give versus the get, what you're going to see is the connections are stronger, they become glued together, and you used the word momentum earlier. Momentum comes. It's like the chain reaction, the nuclear reaction. When you get to critical mass with a certain number of people in your tribe, they're going to be bringing people like themselves into relationship with the tribe, and your momentum is going to scale. So, fantastic. I love it. Good job. Good job. Okay. How about let's have one more in the time we have. Anybody else want to take a swing at this? Okay, I'm going to put somebody on the spot then.
I can if no one else goes, or you can put someone else on the spot.
Is that Mike?
No, it's Brett. It's Brett.
Oh, Brett. Well, I was going to put you on the spot, Brett.
Okay.
So
okay. Thanks, everybody, for
volunteering. You're in.
Uncle Tom put me on the spot. Well, it's very timely. My three are quite simple. I have to shift. Not only right now, but coming into the new year, I need to shift and make sure I commit to 30 minutes of writing every day. I'm not consistent in that right now, and that's something that has to be consistent. We had talked about that, Tom. The other thing that I'm finding that I need to do pretty much 7 days a week is 6 p.m. every night when I'm wrapping up the bulk of my business day. It doesn't mean I'm done working, but I'm wrapping up kind of my business hours, and then I start working after that. But 6 p.m. is I got to make a task list for the next day, top 10 priorities. I'm getting to the point where life is all about knocking down tasks one by one. So that's the second thing. And then what I found is my schedule is getting quite crunched, as it tends to do the more success you create. And so it's forcing me to actually wake up an hour earlier. So I've had to add that. So those are my three.
Wow. Simple but profound. Simple. So let me, you're such a good person to ask these questions of, Brett, and we haven't rehearsed this in any way. So let me ask you, if you got up earlier each day and had a to-do list that you prepared the night before and dedicated a portion of that day to 30 minutes, what would that that success or that accomplishment lead to for you? What would it look
Well,
like?
it's peace of mind and more achievement. By having my task list and my schedule completely planned the night before, I'm going to say yes to what is more important and no to things that become urgent but not important. So at this point and stage in the game, that's become crucial for me. The achievement is I have multiple big projects that are moving forward simultaneously. They're very lucrative, and the reward for the small sacrifice to be disciplined in those three areas is exponential. So, I can easily see a 10 to 20x year in 2019 over 2018.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I want to say a couple things, and then I'm going to turn the meeting back over to you, Brett. First of all, nobody can see my age, but I'll tell you, it was about 50 years ago. I sat in a room in a training program, and the trainer, it was a leadership development training program, and the leader, the trainer said there are two things that every great leader must have, and you must have if you're going to become a great leader. One of them is a well-organized daily calendar. And I think probably everyone on this phone, on this webinar, has some kind of calendaring system. And the other thing, and this came up on your list, Brett, the other thing was a daily to-do list, prioritized by the most important items as number one, and second most number two, and on through the list. And that list is your roadmap for the day, as well as the reminder to not put off to sometime later some of the most important things because they're harder or less desirable to do. But when they're right up at the top of the list, they're going to scream at you to give them some attention. So, congratulations. I think the things that you described, Brett, are very action-centric. It's really hard. So you've got early getting up earlier in the morning. I don't know about the people on the webinar. I'm an early riser, but to me, it's also a ticket for me to have a better evening to be with my family, and that's as important to me as anything in my life. So the reward for being an early riser is I have more time to do things that I choose to do later in the day when those priorities have been met. And I'm gonna close with one reflection. I'll call this a reflection, and it relates to something Andrew said about relationships and systematic connecting with people. And it also is a time to honor the passing of our President Bush this past week. And one of the things that he said when asked what was the most important thing in your life that led to you being able to accomplish all that you accomplished, and this is written up in a couple different books. What he said is the number one thing that I did my entire life is everyone I met with, I wrote a personal note to them of appreciation for who they are. So it had nothing to do with position, nothing to do with getting stuff. It was all about relationally reinforcing the individual based on who they are. So when you talk, Andrew, about relationship and the value that would create and the momentum it would create, Brett, when you talk about your easy for me to say, your to-do list, if on your to-do list is to send out one note today, every day, to someone who you met with today, you'll be creating not just a very appreciative recipient, but you'll be creating an advocate who's going to be out there looking out for you, wanting to be in relationship with you, helping you become more successful, becoming tribe and building tribe. So calendar, to-do list, and to draft off of George H.W., make it personal. I'll leave it there, Brad.
Awesome. Great job, Tom. And congratulations, guys, for getting just getting the work done. It really is about the work. And I'll just end with this. We'll go a few minutes over here and then we'll be done. I'll be very brief. But I was contemplating the webinar tonight and following up on these 3 items. You know, I was interviewed on the on Voice America the other day. Maybe some of you heard it. And she had asked, you know, what's the number one thing you ask or advise a person that when they come to you and they're stuck in life, what's the best advice you can give them? Or what's the first thing you do? And I said, well, the very first thing I do is ask them if they want to be unstuck. Because I've learned that no amount of wisdom, if they don't want to be unstuck, is going to change 2019 over 2018. So, how many of you on this call set goals in 2018 and set goals in 2017 and set goals in 2016? Okay? They're important to do. We just covered them, but here's where the rubber meets the road. Now look back at the difference in the outcome of 2018 and 2017, or 2018 to now. Is your situation much different now than it was a year ago? And you got to be really brutally honest with yourself. This is the catalyst to whether you follow through with your goals or you don't. There's no shortage of opportunity. There's no shortage of wisdom. In fact, I'm thoroughly convinced it's not what we don't know that's keeping us from success. I'm convinced it's what we already know that's keeping us from success. So we set the goals, but then something has to happen. It's a mental energetic shift. And that mental energetic shift is, if you want the results of 2019 to be different than the results of 2018, you must set the goals, but you have to back them with this powerful principle. And that powerful principle is resolute determination. You don't break on life, life breaks on you. Imagine yourself as a 20-inch diameter piece of solid steel driven into 20 feet of concrete, and everything that comes at you breaks on you. You don't break on it. That means that when you get sick, when things don't go your way, when you lose a job, when something happens, it doesn't derail you from the resolute commitment you made to your goals. The biggest challenge I see in people is, honestly, they lack grit. They lack sticking power and staying power to scrap it out when things get tough. Because the brain will always find the path of least resistance. It's designed that way. It's a protection mechanism. And so what I want to encourage you guys as you jump off the call, fantastic job on setting the goals. Now energetically back it with power. That power comes from congruence, the commitment that when you say it, when you write it, when you profess it, when you share it, you will match it with accurate thought, activity, and habit. And that comes from resolute determination. So great job, Tom. Great job, everybody. I apologize for being late to our own webinar. I got on the wrong webinar, so that's a funny one. and I was actually kind of upset that I was the only one on, and my fault. So there's a lesson in life for all of us. So and everybody, I'll unmute you all so you can say goodnight, but thank you so much for being on tonight.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks so much.
Take care, guys. Have a great week.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got on late, but it was a great last few minutes.
Awesome. Well done, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too.
Thanks. So